Facebook for our live stream Animal Encounter. But before we begin, I want to introduce myself and talk a little bit about what we do. So we are Once in a Wild, and we are a mobile zoo. So in normal circumstance, we would bring the zoo to you, to events, to parties, to classrooms, nursing homes, hospitals, office parties, all kinds of possibilities, of course, with the mobile zoo. We do educational animal programs as well as animal therapy and lots of fun experiences with animals all around. But because of recent circumstances, which I'm sure you're aware of, and I'm so sorry that everybody's stuck at home and cooped up, and so are we, and it's not great. So we decided to go ahead and bring the zoo to you, but virtually. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. And thank you so much for your patience. This is our very first Once in a Wild live stream here on Facebook. We're really excited, but we are very new to doing this. So bear with us, and thank you for having mercy on me for my first time for this type of thing. A little about me. I've been working with animals for a long time. I have worked at many different zoos and aquariums and have been talking about animals and learning about them my entire life. So it's my passion, and I am so excited to bring some animals to you live here on Facebook today. And thank you ahead of time for everybody who has been supporting us. And even without these hard times happening and without everything going on, you guys have been great support, and lots of love goes to all of you guys for sure. And we thank you so much, and we really appreciate it. We are offering this show live, of course, and of course free, but we want to humbly ask that if you would like to donate, anything at all helps, of course, to take care of our animals at this time. This is a difficult time for everyone, but we do want to make sure that we bring your attention to our Venmo, which is right here on the bottom. It's going to have all of our information. We can accept tips and donations through Venmo. We also have our Amazon wish list, which you can find on our website, onceinawild.com. You can find it on Facebook, and you can find it on Instagram as well. And don't forget to follow us on all of our social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as well. We're beginning on YouTube, which is really exciting. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we're hoping to get lots of really cool questions. Feel free to chime in with any questions, helpful comments, any encouragement that you may have for us, and we're here to help each other out as always, right? So feel free to interact with me. I'm learning how to do all of this, so I'll try to pay attention to your questions and comments. If I don't address your question here live on video, don't worry, I'll get back to you the old-fashioned way by typing in your answer to your question. And I'll do the best of my ability to answer your questions, as always. But please feel free to ask questions. So let's go ahead and begin. With our first animal, we're actually going to be learning all about reptiles today, one of my favorite type of animals. As those of you that know me, you know that I love reptiles and all animals. But today we're going to talk about 3 different types of reptiles today. And we're going to start with a lizard. So here he is. He's been with me this whole time. This here is Michael. Let's see if he'll be in focus here as I draw him closer to the camera. There he is. This is Michael. He looks huge right here, but he's pretty small. You can see how small he is. He's a Jackson's chameleon, and Jackson's chameleons are native to Africa. So they are actually from 3 different countries in Africa. They're from East Africa specifically, and they live high up in the mountain. So these types of chameleons live in a little bit cooler of weather than most other type of chameleons. They're still considered to be kind of a tropical chameleon. They live in forests, but they're up in the mountains. So they prefer a higher altitude, a cooler temperature, and lots of fog and rain, precipitation to be able to drink their water that they need. But this type of chameleon, the Jackson's chameleon, is found in Tanzania. It's found in Ethiopia and Kenya. And they're pretty cool. They're one of my favorite type of animals. You can see how he just kind of hangs onto my finger there. And, oh, by the way, don't forget to share this with everybody. Ricky's actually chiming in, reminding everybody to share. So please don't forget to share all of our videos as well. Let's see, maybe I should hold them right there. So this, again, is Michael, the Jackson's chameleon. Chameleons are arboreal. You can see how he's hanging on to my finger right now, just like if it were a tree branch. He even has a prehensile tail. You can probably see him grabbing onto my hand there. with his tail. Now, many lizard species actually have an adaptation where they can lose their tail if they need to. Say if a predator like a bird grabs him by the tail, some lizards can lose their tail, but he doesn't do that. So he's a type of lizard that would actually use his tail for grabbing on to my hand right now, but to a tree branch in the natural world, or to the leaves or whatever he's climbing onto. And they are very arboreal, which means they are primarily up in the trees. If he has to walk, he can walk a little bit on the ground as well, but he's going to be much more comfortable hanging on to a tree branch or to my hand in this case. You can see his little hands, if it will focus on them. They are fused toes. He has 5 toes, but they are fused together, kind of like little mittens like this, as you can imagine, kind of like this. He's got more like this though, if I can do it right. But his toes are fused to be able to literally just grab branches very easily. Very, very well adapted to being up in the trees, very well designed. And again, that tail is gonna help him hold his balance and climb. So chameleons are one of my favorite type of lizards because they have some really unique adaptations, not just their prehensile tail and their feet that can grab onto tree branches, but they also have other adaptations which make them really special and really unique when it comes to being a lizard. So one thing you may have noticed about this particular species is he has horns. So not all chameleons have horns, but in this case, the Jackson chameleon actually has 3 horns if they are male, which means that they are they look different if they are female, which makes them dimorphic. So that means that we can tell the difference between male and female very easily. One really good example of dimorphism in the animal kingdom is the peacock. As you know, the peacock male has a big, beautiful tail. During the breeding season, they can fan their tail and show all those ladies their beautiful tail. Well, the female peafowl or peahen does not have that big, beautiful tail like the male. So that means they are dimorphic and they have different colors too. So in the Jackson chameleon, in this species, the males have these 3 beautiful horns on their face, and that is going to be only males. And then females have a little tiny horn or nothing. So they might have just a little nub horn on the end of their nose. It's really cute. I wish I had another a female to show you, but I don't, so you have to look it up on your own. But they do look a lot different, which makes them dimorphic, so totally different looking. And these horns really are for the purpose of impressing the ladies. So if he's a wild chameleon and he's ready to find a girlfriend, if he has really impressive, long, beautiful horns, that's going to show the lady Jackson chameleons that he is going to be a good daddy because he's very healthy and he's very handsome. So he's more likely to get a really good chance of having a girlfriend. And it's kind of like that peacock I was just talking about with the big, beautiful tail that's going to show off for breeding purposes. That's the main reason. Also, chameleons in general are solitary, but if they see another male chameleon, he may use his horns to spar or kind of fight with that other chameleon every once in a while to be able to kind of assert his dominance, maybe impress those ladies that are watching, and also to maybe shove him out of their territory to be able to defend his territory. So that's another kind of purpose of the horns, but it's mostly to show off and look really beautiful for his potential girlfriends. So also, chameleons are really unique in general, not just the Jackson chameleon, but they have amazing eyes. You can see his googly eyes there kind of looking at you guys. His eyes, he's got 2 of them, just like we do. See those eyes? How they kind of move all over the place? It's hard to, there we go. He's in focus a little bit better there. But his eyes are independently moving. So he can move one eye this way and one eye the other way. We can't do that unless I do this, right? A little bit. But he can go cross-eyed if he wants to, but he can also move his eyes independently. So in his vision, his brain, there we go, his brain is going to be one side showing one field of vision and the other side showing the other field of vision. And that eye is independent. So he can actually see on one side of his head over here and see on one side over here. And that's going to show him, you know, what he's looking at. He can look out for danger, and he can also, let's get him a little bit more situated. He can also look out for food, and their food happens to be insects. So they are insectivores. So when they're kind of hanging out, they're going to be looking for food. And when they spot their food, that's when their eyes kind of go together and they can see binocularly, just like we do. And they kind of hone in on a bug. Now, I do have some questions going on here. They're pretty good questions. Everybody's excited about the live feed. Thank you for tuning in. Ricky is asking, how old do they get? Let's see what we can do here. How old do they get? Excellent question. So Michael here is around 2 years old, and this species, as well as most chameleons, they don't really live the longest out of all the lizards, unfortunately. But he's going to live hopefully around 10 in human care. So out there in the wild, unfortunately, they don't live as long because they're having to fend for themselves. They can get sick, of course, with no vet to take care of them. They have to find all of their own food. And here at Once in a Wild, he can live to be about 10 or so. So we're hoping to have him around quite a long time because he's only about 2. So he's still, he's full grown at 2. These guys are mature at about 9 months old. So they're already an adult at 9 months. Can you imagine? So those eyes help him find his prey, which are bugs. So here at Once in a Wild, he gets super worms, he gets mealworms, waxworms sometimes for an occasional treat. And he also gets crickets and dubia roaches. Those are some of his favorite foods. Now, out in the wild, they're going to find all of those different varied bugs as well to eat. And how they catch their food is really unique as well. I almost forgot to talk about that. One of my favorite things about chameleons is once they find what they want to eat and they zero in on their prey, then they're going to grab it with their tongue. And that tongue is amazing and very long. Now, that tongue is actually right here in his little throat. Sorry, buddy, I didn't mean to spook you. Right here in his little throat, he's going to have his tongue right here. It's going to be compressed all the way in there. And when he wants to use the tongue, it flies out like a catapult and will stick to that prey, that bug, and he's going to draw it back in really quickly. And all that happens at a split second. I don't know how fast it is exactly, but it's really fast. So he's going to have a tongue that is actually as long as his body from the tip of his nose to the tip of his tail. Can you imagine if you had a tongue that long? Oh my goodness. And that is how he doesn't even have to come really anywhere near his prey to be able to grab it or catch it. He can just basically use his tongue and bring it right into his mouth. Very convenient. And once he grabs that bug, he's going to crunch it right up with his teeth and mouth and have a nice little snack. And that's how they eat. Pretty cool. Now, a lot of people ask me, you know, do they blend in with the background? Or can they blend into anything? Can any chameleon change any color? And the answer is no, not every chameleon can change any color. And chameleons changing color is pretty cool. There we go. Chameleons changing color is pretty cool, but it's not usually based on them blending in. Now, they do naturally blend in sometimes, and they might maybe turn a little darker if they want to blend into something a little darker, but it's really based on their mood. So think of them as kind of like a mood ring, and sometimes it's based on temperature. So for example, if you've ever seen a panther chameleon, those guys can actually turn rainbow colors, but it's all based on mood and temperature, not necessarily them trying to camouflage into something. But again, they can camouflage into something green or into something brown when they're brown. And really that's kind of up to them as well. But typically it's based on mood and temperature. So pretty cool. Do we have any other questions about the chameleon? If not, I'm just going to keep on talking about him. Like I said, this is Michael, the Jackson's chameleon, and he is a native to Africa. These guys are amazing little chameleons. They're not the largest, but they are one of my favorite species on the planet. Pretty cool. And he is about 2 years old, as I said before. And of course, he is a reptile. We are talking about reptiles today here on our live Facebook live stream here today, live feed, live stream, whatever it may be. But we're talking about reptiles today, and a feature of all reptiles is going to be scales. And if you can see, it's a little bit of a challenge to get his head there. There we go. You can see the scales very well on his head and body. And scales are going to be a feature of all reptiles, whether they be lizards, tortoises, crocodilians, or snakes. All of those have scales instead of smooth skin like us. And they're going to have another ability to shed their skin, or the necessity to shed their skin as they grow. Snakes are probably the most famous for that. But all reptile species, whatever they may be, are going to need to shed their skin as they grow. That outer layer of skin actually doesn't grow with them. There we go. So it's going to have to come off. So you'll see them kind of flaking their skin sometimes. It's perfectly normal. And then they can actually grow. Pretty neat. And all reptiles are also what we call cold-blooded, but the proper term is ectothermic, which means they don't have their own body temperature. So their body temperature is literally whatever temperature it is around them. Right now here in the house, it's in the 70s, so he's the same body temperature as the house right now. When he goes back into his home, he's got a lamp, so he's going to hang out under the lamp if he wants to get a little warmer or get some ultraviolet rays, and he can warm up just a little bit. And he can regulate his body temperature by doing that. But we don't have to do that because we are warm-blooded, or we're endothermic, right? So we are 98.6 or maybe a little hotter than that. And that's okay. We're supposed to be that temperature. If it gets higher, obviously, you're maybe ill. But we have a constant body temperature. So mammals and birds have that constant body temperature. Reptiles don't. Now, one amazing fact about Jackson's chameleons in general is that they are not egg layers. Now, a lot of people ask me, do all reptiles lay eggs? And I said, well, a lot of them do, and some of them don't. So there are many species of reptiles throughout the planet that actually don't lay eggs, but we call them ovoviviparous. It's a big Scrabble word for you, but that is basically meaning that they do have eggs inside of the mother's body, but those eggs stay in mom's body for a little while longer, and they incubate inside there. And then once those babies are ready to be born, they're just born, just like kind of like we are. Now, this type of lizard does not care for their young. So those babies actually will gestate inside of mom, like I said, in eggs, and then they hatch inside of mom for around 190 days. So if you want to round that up to 200 days, that's fine. If you're one of those people, I like to round up too. So around 200 days is going to be their gestation. And then those babies are born. Those babies are born completely ready to be on their own. They actually don't care for their babies at all. In fact, they will have them and then just leave, which sounds awful, but those babies are ready to be by themselves, and they don't want anything to do with mom because mom might be dangerous to them. So they want to get away, and they're going to start eating and living on their own as a tiny little baby chameleon. It's pretty adorable. And they can have up to 30 babies at once. And I've heard even more than that. So anywhere from 1 to 30. Can you moms imagine having 30 babies all at once? Crazy. But they don't lay eggs. That's a really neat fact about the Jackson's chameleon. Well, I think we're going to say goodbye for now, unless you guys have any questions about this chameleon. Don't worry, I'm not leaving yet, but we have a couple more animals to meet. Now we have a couple of questions here. And I really appreciate all of you guys chiming in. I'm going to look through these questions really fast. So Tyrell Hills has a question. I'm going to pop it up here. It's a really good question. Are his toes/feet able to stick to surfaces like a gecko's feet? So that's a great question, but the answer is no. They actually have to grip onto the surface of the branch. You might be able to see him doing that to my arm a little bit, but their toes are like this essentially, and they have little nails. Their nails are pretty sharp. He's grabbing onto my arm right now. I can definitely feel his nails, and he has to grab. He doesn't have the ability to suction onto the side of like a wall or something like that, like a gecko does. It's an excellent question. Thank you so much. And no, they do not lay eggs. For those of y'all that caught that, this type of chameleon is a live-bearing chameleon. Ovoviviparous is another way to say that. We as humans were viviparous, giving live birth. A lot of reptiles and birds, of course, are oviparous, meaning they lay eggs. He's ovoviviparous. Well, not him because he's a boy, but a female counterpart would be ovoviviparous, which means they don't lay eggs. Pretty cool. So we also have a question from Shanice Hills. Do they have any predators? As you might imagine, being a little tiny lizard like this, he's not very big, and this is an adult size, they do have quite a bit of predators. So they live in Africa. Africa has the most highly concentrated amount of predators in the entire world out of any of the continents. So for sure, he definitely does have predators. You can probably think of almost anything that could come from Kenya, Tanzania, or what was the other country I named? Namibia, I think. He's from East Africa. Well, let's just say that. I listed them earlier. But yes, so he lives up in the mountains of East Africa, up in the high altitude up there. So birds would be a big one, birds of prey, other birds like that, maybe other lizards. If he's a small baby chameleon, even other chameleons might eat him. So he definitely has a long list of predators for sure. So very good question. Thank you guys so much. If we don't have any more questions about him, and if you do, that's okay. I'll get back to your question. I'm going to go ahead and let him hang out down here for a little bit, and we'll go ahead and switch animals. You did a great job, though, Michael. thank you guys for asking all your questions about him. Just give me 1/2 a second to let him rest. There we go. He's just going to hang out. And we're going to move on to another type of reptile, which some of you may love, some of you may not love, and that's okay. But we're here to learn, right? And if you have maybe some apprehensions about some animals, this is a great way to learn about them because, you know, it's virtual. You're not here with us. So, but I do encourage you guys to be open-minded. Our next animal we have is this. If we can get her entire body in here. She's a little bit longer than our last animal, right? This here is Harlequin, and she is a corn snake. So this type of snake would live in North America, naturally in the wild. So they're going to be found throughout the eastern side of North America. Some have even said that they actually live in Central America too, and I believe it. These guys are in the rat snake family. And the reason that they're called the rat snake is because they primarily do eat rodents. So as a smaller corn snake, when they're first hatched, these guys do actually lay eggs as a species. Not every snake does. There's some snakes that also give live birth or ovoviviparous, just like the Jackson chameleon we talked about. But these guys don't. They do lay eggs. And when they're hatched, they're pretty small. So they're only about, I would say, maybe 6 inches long at that age when they come out of the egg, super tiny. And so they're going to actually prey on things like lizards and frogs, geckos, things like that. Once they get a little bit older, they're going to transition into rodents. And these guys can even eat birds too. So birds and rodents are going to be their main source of prey at a larger size. Now, this is Harlequin, and she is around 2 or so years old. So she's still not quite fully, totally adult size, but she's getting there. So she's kind of like a, I don't know, juvenile size at this age, but getting there. She's almost an adult now, I guess. And Ashlyn is chiming in. Ashlyn Stevens, one of my good friends, and she's saying, I love snakes. No fear here anymore. I'm going to put that right on the screen because I'm super proud of her for getting over her fear of snakes. I know this girl personally, and she did a really good job getting to know snakes at our previous job and just kind of, you know, getting over the fear. And honestly, a lot of times, if animals are different than us, I understand that these animals don't have legs. They might move different than us. They might look slimy, but they're not. They're actually just really shiny, covered in scales, not slimy at all. And maybe you have some, like I said, apprehensions, or maybe you've seen movies where they're scary, or somebody has told you to be afraid of them. It's okay, it's not your fault, but we do want to ask that you guys be open-minded. And it's really cool to see kind of success stories with like Ashlyn and some other people of getting over their fear, because snakes are actually one of my favorite animals. Check her out. She's so beautiful. Now you can see her belly. Somebody was commenting on her beautiful belly. Who was commenting on that? Somebody was. But these guys are the corn snake. So you might be able to see on their belly there, it's black and white like a checkerboard. If I were to name the snake, I probably would have called it the checkerboard snake, but you can see why that might remind somebody of a corn pattern. I'm trying to see if she can focus there in the camera. See that? They have a beautiful red dorsal with some beautiful markings on her back and on her head and everything on the top part, but the belly is totally different, isn't it? That's my favorite thing about corn snakes. So they have a totally different belly than they do their dorsal. Now, somebody was asking if they can camouflage with the environment. Excellent question, Jamie. So we do have the ability to camouflage on the dorsal. If she were hanging out in some dead leaves or on the forest floor here in the eastern United States or anywhere, she would definitely blend into that. That's a great way to camouflage. But what these guys actually do is they will surprise their predators. So, you know, she's a predator, right? Snakes don't eat salad. But just because you are a predator doesn't mean you don't have predators. So she's a pretty small snake when it comes to being an animal. So if she were hanging out in the wild and she ran into a predator or something scary, maybe even a human. So a human might scare her out there camping or walking around in the woods, something like that. And she gets spooked. She's actually going to show her belly off. So why would she do that? She's camouflaged, and then all of a sudden she's like, wait, hang on. That's going to warn her predators. That's her plan anyway. So that is what's going to kind of scare off her predators, because typically in the wild, if you see a strange pattern, other animals will think that that might be dangerous. Now, somebody was also asking, Natalie was asking if they're venomous. I would be very brave if that were true. She's definitely not venomous, but she does want to pretend to be dangerous. That way she scares off potential predators, if that makes sense. But corn snakes are completely harmless to humans. They're only dangerous to their food. So things like rodents, small birds, maybe even an occasional egg, things like that, lizards, they might be eating those type of animals. But to humans, they're completely harmless. And corn snakes are one of the most gentle type of rat snakes out there in the world. So they're pretty cool. They're actually one of my favorite snakes to talk about and hold. Pretty cool. Any other questions? Let's see. If someone says they are scared, that's okay. You can learn about snakes in this manner. You don't have to be near them, right? So what we do want to encourage you guys to do, if you are scared of any animal, is just to learn about them. You definitely want to respect them. I don't recommend anybody going out and if you see a rat snake or a corn snake in your backyard to pick them up. I don't recommend that. I recommend actually doing the opposite. Step back, leave them alone. You can take a photo from a distance, enjoy them from a distance, or hey, if you're scared of them, run away. That's okay. But we're asking that you don't harm them. That's the main goal here at Once in a Wild, is to make you guys understand animals and maybe lose a little bit of your fear of animals, right? And to respect all wildlife in the spaces that we share with them. Now, I do want to, again, remind you guys that all of our information is down below, scrolling and scrolling. You've probably seen it this whole time while we're talking to each other and while we're hanging out. That's going to tell you where our Venmo account is. So we are absolutely putting out this live stream for free. We don't expect anybody to pay anything to us, but hard times call for, desperate measures sometimes, right? So we want to make sure you guys know about our Venmo account in case you feel like tipping us or you feel like you're enjoying what you see. You want to help us keep going and continuing with the animal programs. We have to feed these animals and we need, unfortunately, funds to do that. So, and we also want to take the time to thank you guys ahead of time for that. We do also have our Amazon wish list with items specifically for the animals that you can donate to Once in a Wild, and that will help us out as well, especially right now with what's going on. And because of what's going on, we're bringing the zoo to you in a virtual way. We're following suit with some of the other zoos that are doing so, and we thought it was a wonderful idea. So who knows, maybe we'll just keep it up even after things settle down with our live stream. We'll see if you guys enjoy it. So back to talking about snakes. You might see her tongue coming in and out of her mouth periodically while we're talking about her and hanging out with her. There's the tongue. Snakes have an amazing sense of smell. You may not know this, but snakes don't really have any hearing. So snakes don't have ears. They have internal ears, mostly for balance. They can also feel vibrations. And there are some theories out there that say they can hear a little bit, but their hearing is not the best. So they don't have external ears at all. So to help them out, they've got an amazing sense of smell. So that tongue actually gives them kind of an extra sense of smell, extra sensitive. See that tongue? Beautiful. Right on cue there. And it's forked. So just like we have two ears, snakes have 2 points to their tongue. When it comes out, it can actually help them smell directionally. Isn't that amazing? So as she's just hanging out with us, she's smelling and figuring out the world around her. What's going on? Why am I on camera? No, she doesn't know. But she's just kind of smelling and figuring out the world around her. As a predator, that's going to help her to find her food, because her food oftentimes is moving around. So something like a rodent, like a mouse, of course, is going to be running around and going about its life. And if she needs to find it, that's going to help her do so by having that extra sense of smell. So she looks like a checkerboard. Yes, she does. We've got some comments here. What's the difference between venomous and poisonous? Excellent question. So this snake here is a corn snake. Her name is Harley Quinn. For those of y'all that just tuned in, no big deal. You're coming in late, but better late than never. It's fine. This is Harley Quinn. She's a corn snake, and corn snakes are non-venomous and not poisonous. But there is a big difference between venom and poison. Now, all venom is poison, but not all poison is venom. So venom has to actually be injected into your body to be able to affect you. So for example, a bee has venom because they have a stinger, and the stinger goes into whoever they're stinging or whatever they're stinging and injects that venom. Poison, you have to ingest, maybe take a lick or eat, or maybe even touch, and it goes into your skin for it to affect you. So that's very, very different than a venom. A venom has to go into your bloodstream directly to affect you. So a venomous snake is not poisonous. Isn't that interesting? Now, there are poisonous snakes, but they're very rare, and it's kind of based on their diet. So a poisonous snake has to actually eat something else that makes them poisonous, and then you would have to eat the snake itself or taste the snake itself, I guess, to be able to be affected by poison, if that makes any sense. I hope that answered your question there. Perfect. How do snakes store their eggs inside themselves? Well, this is a very long-winded answer, but they're just going to have their eggs inside of them just as a mammal or a bird or anything else would have their babies inside of them in their uterus. So they would store that inside of their body. A snake may not seem like they have a whole lot of room in their body, but did you know that most snake species, not this one actually, this is an exception to this rule that I'm about to tell you, but a lot of snake species are actually bigger if they're females. And that makes sense because they have to carry a lot of babies. Now in this snake species, the males are actually a little bit larger than the females. So it does vary depending on the species, but the females have them inside of them just like any other animal would have babies, for sure. We're getting a lot of love. Everybody's saying that they're loving the live stream. Thank you so much. We love it too. Let's see. Thank you for all the shout outs, of course. Just trying to see if there's any more questions. Well, Harlequin is an amazing snake. And these guys, like I said before, with reptiles, they have to shed their skin to grow. Snakes are the best example of that. They actually shed their skin around once a month, more or less, depending on how fast they're growing. And they're going to grow based on their care and what they're eating. So a lot of people ask me, like, how big do they get? Or can you tell their age by their size? And you really can't unless you know when they were hatched or when they were born. So Harlequin, I got her maybe half this size, so I don't know her birthday or anything like that. So I assume she's around 2. She might be a little older than that, maybe 3 now, 2.5. But I don't know her previous life. I don't know how much food she got to eat. So they're going to grow based on what they get to eat and based on what temperatures they were kept at and whatnot. So that's going to be the basis of their growth, not necessarily their age. Now, in a perfect world, if she's eating every single week, which by the way, they don't have to eat a whole lot, about once a week, she would be constantly growing, and they never stop growing their entire life. And that goes for all reptiles. It does slow down quite a bit after they mature though. So once they get a certain size, they kind of slow their growth a little bit. Do we have any other questions about the snake? I can't imagine you guys know everything already. And you can see her beautiful, beautiful dorsal, which is red. This is another name for this type of snake. It's the red rat snake. Red rat snake or corn snake. And corn snake because of that beautiful corn-like belly. And somebody is asking, it looks like Ricky's asking, how big do they get? Well, I kind of just answered that. It all depends, but this type of snake can get up to around 5 or maybe 6 foot long, but they're never really that large. They're a very slender type of snake. This type of snake is a red rat snake. They're in the colubrid category of snakes. Colubrids are corn snakes, rat snakes, king snakes, milk snakes, all kinds of different animals. Bull snakes are in that category. Indigo snakes, one of my favorites. And those are just kind of slender-bodied, longer-bodied type of snakes in general. Excellent question, Ricky. Can snakes see heat signatures? I assume you mean like the warmth of another animal. So yes and no. It kind of depends on the snake. Most can, and most see a little bit of a degree of heat. They smell really well though too. As far as I know, not every snake can see like a really good heat pattern, but some snakes like pythons actually have heat sensing pits on their lips, which helps them to sense heat. So excellent question. I hope that answered your question. Let's see. So Lauren says, a lot of people are afraid of snakes. Can you talk about why it's good to have them around in your backyard? Excellent comment. Yes, a lot of people are a little bit scared of snakes for different reasons. Maybe it's just not your thing, and that's okay. I'm not here to judge anyone. We do definitely want snakes around. Now, that might be a little scary for some of you, but snakes are predators. So predators need to be in the ecosystem. The ecosystem just means the world around us, right? Snakes are predators and they eat prey. And those prey might be something that is harmful to humans, such as mice and rats. Mice and rats have their own lot in life. They are very important in their own way, but too many mice and rats can cause things like diseases and parasites to affect humans. And they might even get into our food and eat our food, things like that. But it's going to be mainly the danger of parasites, diseases, things like that. And too many of anything really is not a great thing. So we have to have predators like snakes, birds of prey, all kinds of other animals that eat mice and rats to keep them in check, to keep them at a level that makes more sense for everybody around them, that's going to actually keep them in a good number to where everything's safe. And that is why they're so important. Also, snakes mean us no harm. There's no snake that wants to harm you. They have no reason to other than to defend themselves. So a snake is going to want to be left alone. So these snakes are, like I said, they don't hear great, so they may not even hear you coming. They might feel the vibrations of your footsteps or something like that. But usually, they're not even going to hear you coming, and all of a sudden there's a great big giant right there next to them. They're going to be scared. They're going to be scared of you. They're going to think that maybe you're going to eat them or harm them. And let's face it, some people do harm snakes. So a lot of snakes are pretty scared of humans, so they may want to defend themselves. But most animals, wild animals in general, want to get away from danger. So that's going to be their first move, is to try to get away. They're going to slither away, get away at any way they can, but they don't mean you any harm. So we really shouldn't harm them either. The best thing to do if you see a snake, kids out there especially, if you see a snake, leave it alone. Leave it alone. If you like snakes, look at it, enjoy it from a distance, take a photo, etc. But we don't want to go picking up wild animals. Definitely not recommended for anybody out there. And also, we want to keep the animal safe and you safe, of course. But if you need to call a professional, that's perfectly acceptable. If you need to call a professional to be able to move the snake out of your backyard or whatever, that's okay. But honestly, most snakes are harmless, and all snakes don't want to harm you regardless. So the best thing to do is leave them alone, give them some distance. But if you're uncomfortable, you can call a professional to help you out, move the snake into a more appropriate area. But we want to make sure that you guys know that snakes are important to the environment, to us, and they should be left alone to do what they do their job, right? Excellent, excellent comment. And people are saying hello out there in Facebook land. If you guys just tuned in, my name is Amanda, and we're here with Once in a Wild Animal Encounters, brought to you live today here on Facebook. Since we're not able to hang out with you guys in person right now for obvious reasons, we're bringing the animals to you via Facebook Live. Pretty cool. If anybody doesn't have any questions about the snake right now, and if you do later, that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and switch to our final reptile. And we'll say see you later to Harley Quinn. She did a great job. Okay, we're going to have her hang out right next to me over here. And we're going to have our final animal come on. And I'm sure you're going to love him. Okay, so this here is Shelton John. Shelton John is a tortoise. Here he is. There you go. You can see him a little better there. This is Shelton John. He's a redfoot tortoise. He's adorable. We actually have two redfoot tortoises here at Once in a While. We have Shelton John and we have Frank Sinatra, Frank for short, or Franklin if you want to call him Franklin, that's fine. But Shelton's a little bit smaller and easier to hold, so we're going to hang out with Shelton today. Again, he's a red-footed tortoise. Now, a lot of people think that turtles and tortoises are the same thing, and that's okay. They're almost the same thing. They're just a little bit different. So turtles and tortoises are in the same family category. They're just different in some ways. And one main way is going to be their swimming ability. So turtles, as most people know, sea turtles, box turtles, red-eared slider turtles, etc., those guys can swim at least a little bit. And some, like sea turtles or alligator snapping turtles, etc., they live most of their life right there in the water, fully aquatic almost, right? They come on land for a little bit, but really they're in the water most of the time. So turtles can swim, tortoises can't. So as much as we love Shelton John here, we would never ask him to go swimming. He can't. So the tortoises are very, very heavy bodied. I know he's pretty small right now, but he is heavy for his size and not buoyant, meaning that he can't float. He can't swim or float. His legs are what we call elephantine. They look like little elephant legs. Can you see? There we go. So they look like little elephant legs, and that's to be able to lift his body up and walk around. Since he has kind of a heavier body, especially for an animal this size, he has to be able to have strong legs. He's going to be able to use his elephantine legs to walk around, but those legs are not designed for swimming. He can't do any backstroke or a breaststroke or anything like that. They're just for walking. So he can walk around, on land. He's going to be a land-dwelling animal. And that's not to say that he doesn't drink water. Of course, he drinks water. And he's going to, he's actually a tropical species. The red-footed tortoise is from South America, aren't you, buddy? You're from South America. And these guys do enjoy a tropical environment. So it rains almost every day in a tropical environment. So he would be known as a species to go out into the rain and enjoy some of that rainfall on his shell, get some nice humidity. These guys are a high humidity type of tortoise. So definitely enjoying rain. He might go into some shallow water to be able to soak himself and get a drink, things like that, but he could not swim. He would go into deep water and not be able to swim at all. So that's a big difference between tortoises, like Shelton here, and turtles, which can swim. Another big difference is going to be their diet. So in general, tortoises are herbivores. Now that makes a lot of sense, right? Because when you think of a tortoise, are they fast or slow? Obviously, they're not very fast. He's slow. Sorry, buddy. I mean it in the best way. You're a good tortoise. No, but he's slow as a species, so they can't really run very fast to catch animals to eat in general. Now, that's not to say that he couldn't eat the occasional slow-moving slug, worm, etc., but they really shouldn't have a whole lot of meat in their diet. In fact, their diet consists of mostly plants, so things like grass, plants, of course, in the jungle where he lives, flowers, occasional fruit, things like that. So that's another major difference. Just because of the nature of how slow they move is going to be their diet, right? So those are some big differences. Another big difference between turtles and tortoises in general has to do with some of the things we already talked about, which is their ability to swim. He's just not built for swimming. His shape is rounded. Most tortoises, with the exception of a couple, aka the pancake tortoise. Pancake tortoises are flat, but that's kind of an exception. But most tortoises are rounded on their shell, so they can actually not be very streamlined in the water, if that makes sense. So that rounded shell is going to be a feature of most tortoises. Now let's see. Someone's asking if they lay eggs. This type of tortoise is definitely an egg-laying tortoise, and actually all tortoises lay eggs. There's no ovoviviparous tortoises to my knowledge, so we haven't discovered them yet, I guess. No, but there's no tortoises that give live birth. These guys are egg layers. Excellent question. And that was by Elsa. I forgot to pop that up on the screen. That's a great question since we were talking about reproduction earlier. Of course, the females lay the eggs and the males don't. Let's see. Why do they move so slow? Well, we don't really know why. I don't know exactly why, but they are adapted to being on land. So they're going to move slow. They're going to hang out in the grass, on the ground. Some tortoises live in the desert, so they have to eat desert plants and things like that. This tortoise is a tropical species, so they will live in South America in the jungle most of the time, or right near the jungle. So they're going to be hanging out on the ground. They're slow moving, so therefore mostly eating plants. But as to why they move slow, who knows? Let's see. How old is he? Excellent question from Natalie. So there we go. How old is he? Well, Shelton was a rescue tortoise, so we don't really know his age or any significant history about him. The rescue group that gave him to us told him that he's male, number one, and that he's approximately 10, maybe 20 years old, but with not knowing his birthday or not knowing his previous care, if he didn't get enough food, enough sunlight, enough nutrients, enough water, enough vitamins and minerals that he needed, he may not have grown at the normal rate that he would normally grow. So we're just guessing. He could be anywhere, really any age, but at this size, I mean, I would say probably 10 or more years old. And these guys are a pretty long-lived tortoise. Now, if he were getting excellent care and he's a 10-year-old tortoise and getting all the food and everything that he needs, he might be a little bigger than this. But again, I don't really know how he was cared for before us. And we've had him for about 2 years now. So I guesstimate anywhere from 10 to 20. Excellent question. And again, they're going to grow based on their food and their care. Someone says, aw, thank you for the nice comment. How long do tortoises live? Excellent question. So it all depends on the care, and it all depends on the individual, genetics, and the species. So some species of tortoise can live really long time, upwards of 180 years old, maybe even longer. Those are some of the larger tortoises that we know of that can live that long. So like Galapagos tortoises and Aldabra tortoises, etc. Those guys live a long time. And there are some other ones as well that are smaller than that might live quite a long time. This species here lives anywhere from, let's say, 40 to 60, maybe a little longer depending on his care. So it really all depends. That's a very, very good question. Very, very good. Okay. Well, thank you guys again for tuning in. Thank you, Marcel. I clicked on that on accident, but super cute. Can they bite? Oh, love this question. So that's from my brother-in-law, Christian. Hi, Christian. Thanks for the question. So can they bite? That's my favorite question for any animal, I think. And I get it all the time, and that's okay. So yes, he can. But will he? Probably not. And I always like to say, anything with a mouth can bite you, but I have a mouth, and I'm not going to bite anybody. So, it just depends on what's going on. But yeah, I mean, he bites his food, which is salad usually, grass, things like that, fruit. So yes, he can bite his food, but he's never bitten a human. And what else? We have, do tortoises shed their skin/shells? I guess that's from maybe your child, Asher. Hi, Paul. Thanks for the question. Do tortoises shed their skin and shells? Yes, they will shed a little bit. So actually, Shelton is shedding a little bit right now on his neck. I don't know if you guys can see that at all. There's a little bit of skin coming off of there, flaking off of his neck. So yes, he's shedding right now. And also they will kind of flake off their scutes, which is part of the shell there. So yes, they do shed a little bit on their shell. Not going to be as obvious as a snake shedding or a lizard shedding, but absolutely, they're reptiles. So they must shed to grow. Excellent question, you guys. And Christian says, maybe I will bite. Oh my goodness. You never know. Well, Shelton's been a really good boy too. And these guys are beautiful tortoises. Luckily, all three of the species that I talked about, the Jackson chameleon, the red-footed tortoise, and the corn snake, they're not endangered species, which is really great to talk about because many animals do need our help. Now, just because a species is not endangered in the wild doesn't mean that we can't help them, because we do want to make sure that they stay that way, right? That we stay stable in populations, that they don't become endangered. So some ways that we can actually help animals out, there's many ways, but some easy choices at home that we can make are things like using less plastic. Plastic, unfortunately, is all over the world and causing a lot of problems. It's, of course, trash that doesn't go away really ever. So it gets stuck in the ecosystem with the animals, and the animals are dealing with it. So we can do our best to say no to one-use plastic, never using plastic straws, plastic water bottles, things like that, or using them at a minimum. And of course, recycling plastic whenever we can. And that's one thing we like to kind of teach you guys here at Once in a Wild, is how we can help animals all over the world just by making really easy choices. Another one is plastic bags. The less plastic bags that you use when you can go back out and go shop, the better it is for the environment. So we can use things like reusable bags, reusable water bottles, reusable straws, etc. Do we have any other questions? And don't worry, guys, if I miss your question, there's a lot of them coming in, as you might understand. This is also my first time, so please be patient with me as I learn this platform of Facebook Live. It's new to me. So thank you so much for your patience. I will get to your questions one way or another, whether it's this way or the old-fashioned way of typing your answers in. So I will do my very best to answer your questions, so don't worry. Now we are going to go ahead and I think wrap it up. I'm getting a lot of thank yous and a lot of positive feedback from you guys, and I really, really appreciate everyone's support, of course, during these hard times. And we wanted to outreach to you guys too, because we know everybody's stuck at home. We know your kids are with you. We know you're all having a hard time right now, and we're all here for you. We want to make sure that you know that our information is down below, scrolling right there. If you need to call us for any reason, we're here for you. You can find us at onceinawilde.com for all kinds of fun content. Follow us on social media for some fun videos about animals. There's going to be much more than this coming, you guys. I think we're going to keep it up. And please don't hesitate, again, to ask any questions that you may have about animals or the environment or anything we can help you with. I'm here for you, like I said. And if you feel so inclined to help us out, we have an Amazon wish list, you guys. We have an Amazon wish list with a bunch of animal items that we need, and you know, the every little bit helps. The more help we can get, the better. We also have our Venmo account that you guys can donate tips if you'd like, or donations. Of course, we're super grateful for any help that you may want to give, and for your support here on social media as well. Now I am going to go ahead and close out the video. You guys have been amazing for my first audience on live stream. I really appreciate all your support. As I said, I am going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'll be here for your questions and continue asking them, continue reaching out to us. If we can do anything for you guys, please let us know. Give me a call. Check us out on onceinawild.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube coming up as well. More videos on there too. So we thank you guys so very much. Take care of yourselves. Stay home if you can. Be well. Stay in your shell. And, you know, everything's going to be okay, you guys. We have each other. We got this. So take care of yourselves. We hope to hear from you soon. We hope to see you again. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Bye.